So Tim, you obviously, man, there's no shortage of people who speak so highly of you. I mean, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Dwayne Wade, you name it. How do you even become the trainer to these amazing NBA athletes?
Everybody wants to start there. It doesn't start there. All right, it starts many, many years ago, knowing exactly what you wanted to do. I was fortunate enough when I went to college, I have a master's degree in exercise science and kinesiology. So what I wanted to do was, when I told my parents, this is what I wanted to do, I said I was going to train professional athletes. And everybody says, what are you going to study? I said, I'm studying kinesiology, exercise science. They said, oh, you're going to be a gym teacher. I said, no, I'm going to train professional athletes. You know, we're going back into the 80s. You know, I'm a couple of months older than you are. Just a couple months. You know? So I kept telling myself, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I had a big passion, and I always loved sports, the passion and action behind the sport. So I was like, okay, but I wasn't good enough to be a professional. I knew that. I knew I was not going to make any money playing basketball. That was my sport.
Sure.
But I still wanted to be involved in it.
At the highest level.
At the highest level. Still, how can you make a difference and still work and be in the same mindset as these individuals? So what I did was I finished off my degree. I went to work in a local health club. My hourly rate was $3.25.
As a personal trainer?
And they wouldn't even hire me as a personal trainer. When I came into the health club, you had to work. Here's a word for you fitness people out there, for young guys that you might have not heard, the Nautilus room.
The Nautilus room.
Yeah, where you had all the equipment and there was just Nautilus.
Yeah.
So you had to go in there, and everybody who came in joined the health club. They got a free session of how to use the Nautilus equipment. There were 12 pieces there, and you went there. And I was that individual with a master's degree. With a master's degree teaching these people. But I was like, it was one of the best things that happened to me, because what it did was, you go to college, you learn everything from a book, but you don't really get a chance to apply it and to actually use it. So now it gave me a chance in this environment to actually learn how to use everything.
With real people.
With real people.
And I suppose that's probably a good thing that you weren't working with athletes right out the gate, because the last thing you want to do is get your hands wet with athletes.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing. Everybody wants to go there, but they forget that you got to do all that other stuff first. Nobody wants to do that. People come in, they apply for a job. They've never worked in the industry. First thing they check off, managerial position. Managerial position? Well, what have you done over here? So I learned my craft. I worked with every possible individual in there. Anybody that wanted to lose weight, gain weight, had injury, any kid that wanted to be perform better, and learned everything. I learned how to apply everything, learned how to do everything. The word kind of spread that, hey, there's an actual individual in there. He's just not doing training. He's doing more like movement stuff. He's making people better as recreational tennis players, as recreational basketball players, and so forth. And I made a lot of mistakes during the time. I would write programs out, and I'm like, this isn't going to work. And that allowed me to have the trust in myself to know when the opportunity came. And I didn't say if, when the opportunity came.
What made you so confident that the opportunity was going to come? That you would say when and not if?
There was no other option for me. I was going to make it happen. I wasn't relying on somebody else to say, oh, figure this out. Let me make a contact here. Let me, you do find your resources in different places, but still the onus is on you. So what I did was I sent out, when I was confident enough in my ability, I sent out a letter to every single player in the Bulls organization. There's 15 players, but there's a mistake I made, all right? I only sent out 14 letters. And this was when you had to handwrite the letters, go to the post office stamp. There was no emails back then. I sent out 14 letters.
Who was the 15th?
I did not send out one letter to Michael Jordan.
Why?
In my mind, I was like, he's already the best at what he does. Why would somebody who's as great as they are need help?
Wow.
I got one reply back from the one person I did not send a letter to.
Oh, shit.
The one person I did not send a letter to. He contacted the team athletic trainer. He contacted the team physician and said, hey, find out who this guy is and what he's about. So there's a lesson over there. There's a reason why individuals that are so successful, business, sports, athletics, whatever you want to do, the best of the best are always looking to get better. They're never satisfied. They're always looking for that competitive advantage. No matter how much they've won, they want to win more. One of the greatest things that I said, now I know you understood the book, you did not call yourself a cleaner. Okay, and we'll get into it later about what a cleaner actually is. Cleaners don't recognize themselves as cleaners because they're never completely satisfied with what they've done. They've never played a perfect game. They've never had a perfect anything. There's always, they could figure out something that it just didn't go right. He used to tell people about a story about Michael Jordan and his stat sheet. After every basketball game, there's a stat sheet, you know, how many points you scored, how many rebounds, assists, all that other stuff. He used to give that to Michael. Mike said, never bring me that stat sheet again. He goes, this is all I want to see on the stat sheet. I want to see how many turnovers I had, how many missed free throws, and how many fouls I had. He goes, I'm supposed to score points. I'm supposed to get rebounds. I'm supposed to make my teammates better. I'm supposed to play defense. I don't need to see a stat of things I'm supposed to do. I need to see a stat of the things I'm not supposed to do.
How many people, because you've coached the best or you've trained the best, how many of the athletes that you've come across in your time have had that mindset versus wanting to see all the pats on the back of how well they scored and how they rebounded?
How many? There's less than that I've dealt with and I've talked to, I'd say there's less than 20.
Less than 20.
There's less than 20. I'm talking about in all the sports that I've had to actually had a conversation with, not all these athletes, you know, the Michaels, the Kobes, the Wades. I've actually had a chance to work with those individuals, you know, personally for years and years. But through them, I got a chance to meet so many other people. I'm not just talking about like a one-off. I'm talking about being for years, you know, like a Wayne Gretzky and, you know, Derek Jeter,
yeah,
you know, Roger Federer. To see those individuals, to put them in a room, and if they all spoke exactly the same way, and you didn't know who was speaking, they're talking about the same thing over and over again. They can't tell you all the points and all the games they won, but they can tell you every opportunity that they didn't capitalize or the game they should have won and they made a mistake. That's what sticks with those individuals.
So would you say these are people who are like super achievers? They're just they have unreasonable expectations? Like, how do you define this cleaner mentality? Like, what the fuck makes someone so relentlessly focused on the things that they failed at versus the things that they're so amazing at that less than 1/10 of 1% of the population can achieve?
You know what I always tell? Something happened. We all have that ability. This is not something you're born with. I love how people say, "Yo, this person is born with that." You're not born with that. You know, when you're born, the doctor doesn't say, "This kid is going to be relentless. This one's going to be a winner. This one's going to do this." No, they're like, everyone has the same opportunities. Now, what happens is, through your childhood, and maybe on even later in life, something happens to you. There's some kind of decision you have to make. There's some kind of obstacle that came in your way, something that you had to deal with. And how you dealt with that situation pretty much determines how everything else is going to go. Did somebody handle that for you, or did you own up to it and say, I'm going to take care of this? Mm. And I think how you I know those individuals, if you look at all their stories, every individual that's been successful, you know, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all that other stuff, if you look at everything that they've done, some kind of something happened in their life, early on in their life, that put that in this relentless mindset to just be an overachiever, set unrealistic goals because they saw something and they did not want to go back in that direction. So when something happens, you have two options. You can either curl up and just say, you know, make excuses after excuses, or you can own up to it and turn around and figure out how to do it. You gave a perfect example about the building, well, before this building.
Yeah.
You could be, woe is me. I spent 7 figures here. What the hell am I going to do? Blame everybody else. Okay, and your wife came up with the idea, you guys came up with the concept, look what happened.
Yep.
It doesn't happen right away. People want it to happen right away.
Yeah.
All right, it doesn't happen right away. all right? It's only a failure when you decide it's a failure, not when somebody else tells you it's a failure.
So Tim, I'm curious, because I imagine that if you're someone who's training like not even the tip of the spear, I'm talking the razor's edge in a particular sport here, like in the NBA, you probably see common denominators from the sport that can be translated into entrepreneurship and business.
Sure.
And since this is a entrepreneurship and business podcast, if I were to say, all right, Tim, what talents, abilities, skill sets, habits, belief systems do the viewers and listeners of this show need to adopt to even begin to think or operate like a cleaner?
Well, the first thing you got to do, we have 13 traits in here of quote unquote the most competitive, cleaner individuals out there. The one thing you have to do is you have to know exactly who you are. So many times you're not living your life, you're living what somebody else wants you to live. You're trying to make them happy. You become the person they want you to be. I always said somewhere down the line, a lot of individuals, somebody takes their identity, or you give them your identity, and now you've become the way they want you to be. These individuals know exactly who they are, and they're that way all the time. People always say, listen, one of my biggest faults is I'm the same person all the time. No matter what the circumstances is, what the situation is, I'm going to give you the straight answer, whether you like it or you don't like it. Don't ask a question. I know, and these individuals know exactly who they are. They're the most competitive individuals out there in everything they do. People always say, I love when people get on podcasts and, these different shows, and they tell you the same thing over and over again. You got to get up early. You got to outwork the competition. You got to work harder. You got to do these things. We all know that. We all know that. If that's all it took, then we'd all be super, super successful.
Sure.
All right. It takes way more than that. It takes the mindset to put those things into place. If you're going to get up earlier than everybody else, are you using that time productively? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? I always tell people, I've never worked out an individual. I've trained individuals. There's a big difference between working out somebody
What's the difference?
And training somebody. I can take anybody into a gym and work them out, get their heart rate up, get them doing these motions, and literally 10 minutes later they're pouring in sweat. All right, man, I had a great workout. Yeah, you had a great workout. But now, did you train? Did you actually train in your sport? Did you train yourself physically? Did you train yourself mentally to give you that competitive edge in what you need to do it in? And that's what these individuals do. Everything they do is focused. It could be even in their personal life. It's focused to give them that competitive advantage. And they surround themselves not with friends, they surround themselves with allies. And the difference between friends and allies is friends tell you what you want to hear. Allies tell you what you need to hear.